Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the finest priest-led podcast in Payne County. It's Pastors of Payne.
Is it? Wait. That's not.
If Father Robert or Father Emmanuel in Cushing or some other priest started a podcast, ours would still be better. Take that.
You just slammed a Gatorade bottle
we are excited that you're with us. It is August. It is school's getting ready to start. A little nervousness there. I think especially of our friends who are trying to have school in person, and it's just hard. But I would say is this. I saw this a few weeks ago on Facebook, and that is if you know parents or teachers, this is a good time to love the crud out of them.
Really?
It's just hard. And I think there's so much kind of information, there's so much misinformation that people are feeling like no one is happy with the decisions they're having to make.
Okay.
Right? So if we're going to like try to have a football season, but there's going to be no fans or whatever, I don't know what,
no one's
whatever.
going to be having,
right. So people are going to be like, why can't we have, like nothing, there's no sort of perfect solution to all of this. So what I saw the other day, which I really liked, was if you know a parent who is saying, I'm going to homeschool my kids, you should tell them that sounds like a great decision and I support you. And if you have a parent who's they're going to send their kids to school in person, you say to them, that sounds awesome. That sounds like a great decision and I support you. Or they're choosing the online version or some hybrid. That sounds like a great decision. I fully support you. I love you.
That's good.
There's just, there's no, he just raised his hand.
I don't know why. I was going to ask him about
You're in education mode.
I was going to ask, how do you express love and thanksgiving to a teacher who is learning? And so I raised my
Yeah. Anyway, just
as a former teacher.
Well, I was talking to somebody. We have a parishioner who's a school administrator. I was talking to him the other day, and I was always. I ran a high school for 10 years. I was always very anxious about the start of the school year. How's it going to go? Is everybody going to show up? What's enrollment going to be like? We got new teachers. You got all that. So there's already this kind of anxiousness kindled with excitement. But I think this year there's not excitement. It's just anxious.
Oh.
And, what's it going to be like and how are people, and people are reacting. I think most people are reacting like normal human beings. They're being nice about it. They have questions. They have concerns, and they're raising those in appropriate ways. And then there's people who are not doing that, who are being uncharitable, who think that their way is the only way, and frankly are being, I think, very prideful.
Confessions every Wednesday.
Yeah,
at St. Francis
come
Xavier.
on.
Confessions every evening at St. John Catholic Student
Center. I think between our two parishes, we have 10 plus hours of confession every week. But anyway, it's an anxious time. But let's not talk about that because we can talk about that all day long.
Okay. This is what
he raised his hand again.
I did it. I want to hear how people have taken to your new statue of Blessed Stanley Rother, which I went in there, and I wish you had put a sign on there that says not actual size, but in art,
Stanley Rother, 5 feet tall.
In art, you remember in St. Peter's Basilica, St. John Baptist de La Salle is above St. Ignatius of Loyola, and he is if Ignatius of Loyola is 17 feet. St. John the Baptist de La Salle is 22 feet, so that you can get this perspective of height.
Yeah, so in architecture, not very often at all is artwork to scale. This crucifix, that's exactly how tall Jesus was. No, we don't do that. You make art, in this case of a statue, to fit the space.
Yes.
And so in our case, so if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, we back on July the 28th is the optional memorial of Blessed Stanley Rother.
Optional? Come on. Who's not celebrating
Oklahoma
that?
priest and martyr. And to time with that, we got a new statue of Blessed Stanley Rother. And it's a statue, it's made of wood, and it's beautiful, beautifully carved, beautifully painted. And it came from the same studio, Ferdinand Stuflesser, out of Italy, where we got all the other wood.
Stouflesser from Italy.
Ferdinand Stouflesser. It's like I think the Italians and the Germans got together.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. So we on his feast day over that weekend we had a special prayer and a blessing of the new statue. But the week before we had it out like in the narthex, so people could like stand next to it and take selfies with it, and But that's what you were talking about. Like you're standing next to it. You're 6 feet tall, and you're standing next to it, and it's like, well, I'm way taller than him. I don't know how tall.
Not actual.
I don't know
size.
how tall Father Stan was in real life, but anyway. Now the statue is in place, and it is in its place where it will be for for hundreds of years. And what I love about it, so in our church, if you come in the front doors and you go all the way down towards the altar and you look to the right, to the east, that area is called a transept. So we have two transepts. We have an east transept and a west transept.
Okay.
It's like the arms of a cross. So our church is shaped like a cross, cruciform. The arms of the cross. So in the East Transept, since we opened, we've had a statue of Saint Francis Xavier, the man.
Yep.
Who great missionary, Jesuit, Spanish missionary to India.
He's wearing his cassock.
And he's wearing his cassock, and like he's
like a surplice, and then like a purple stole.
And a purple stole, right?
Okay.
God's mercy.
So what and that's to represent God's mercy. What is Stanley Rother wearing?
So then, so what's funny is people from Oklahoma who are familiar with the story of Stanley Rother look at St. Francis Xavier and they're like, oh my gosh, you have a statue of Stanley Rother? Because he's a man, he has a beard, and he's dressed like a priest. So what I'm very excited about now is that we have Rother next to Xavier. So now people will be able to distinguish between the two.
Okay, but what's the stole he's wearing?
So Stanley Rother statue is him in priestly garb. So he has his cassock and surplice and the stole over. Now, Francis Xavier's stole is kind of fancy European purple, but it's with designs on it. The stole that Rother has on is very incarnational. It's very it's kind of present to where he was, which was he was a priest in Guatemala.
It's made out of like it's like wool.
Yes,
but it's like hardy wool.
Yeah,
and it has these.
It's thick.
Like the colors on it. They're red because he's a martyr.
It's orange actually.
It's orange.
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't know
Go Pokes. No. So we took the image, so that Ferdinand Stouflesser had never made a statue of Stanley Rother before. Okay. So they were like, who is he? What the heck? What
does it look like?
And so we sent them, the image we sent was the image that was used by the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City at his beatification.
Okay.
So it's him. He's standing there. He has in his hand the New Testament translated into Zutahil, the language of the people in Santiago Atitlan, and then he has his other hand kind of open to sort of say, "Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest." And then the stole is actually it's orange
because of the color of. We haven't figured that one out yet.
Yeah, no. So I don't know what the occasion would have been for him to be wearing that stole.
Okay,
but it's kind of a famous picture.
Right on. Yeah, it's on the cards. It's it's that famous picture.
That's the image that we wanted. We didn't want to there's multiple images like pictures of him with people, and we just wanted that's the official image, and so that's what we did with the statue.
And you said he's got the New Testament or the entire Bible?
The New Testament. So one of the things Father Stan did when he got down there, despite struggling with languages all through seminary, one of the projects that he undertook in his 13 years there was to translate the New Testament into the native language.
Was it a written language at the time?
I don't know.
Oh, wow.
But talk about preaching the gospel, right? Are the scriptures important? People need to be able to. It's the reason why the Mass is so scriptural. It's the reason why you're doing, hundreds of students in Bible studies, because we need to be as Catholics immersed in the Word. And so if the gospel is going to take in this town in Guatemala, the faith had been there since the 1500s, but they had never really had access to the scriptures until he got there.
Wow. And that's nothing new in the Catholic Church.
Oh yeah.
Because
Francis Xavier did the same thing.
Francis Xavier did the same thing.
Yep.
Let's say Jean de Brebeuf, I think he translated it into Huron.
Yeah, great Jesuit missionary to the Native Americans. Yeah.
And then when you look at Vietnamese, when you look at the Vietnamese language, it looks like Latin. But there's all these tones, these little lines on it that you can say something like, you can say the word pho apparently 5 different ways based on the tone.
Now I'm hungry. Jerk.
And so the scriptures, the Jesuits, when they were translating the scriptures, they actually had to make a written language for the Vietnamese people.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the most beautiful things about the church being, Catholic being universal is that we take all this stuff and we apply it to the local culture so that the local culture is not like, oh, this is just something foreign imposed in on us. But this is actually part of who we are.
Yeah.
And I love that about the Stanley Rother statue is that he's wearing the stole of the local culture.
Yeah, this is Stanley Rother, American priest. He's a farmer from Oklahoma. But where was he serving? In Guatemala. And so he looks like he's serving in Guatemala because he did.
Yeah.
And so it's part of, we'd say the incarnation, the enfleshment of God, right? That God became man. God became one of us. And so the church kind of takes that tone as we go to different places. And I mean, it happens right here, right? If we're here in Stillwater. When we preach the gospel, we preach it in English and Spanish because that's the language of the people here.
Yes.
I don't come rolling in here speaking in Latin or Italian or
Portuguese
because the people here don't speak. They speak English and Spanish. When you're preaching, you're talking to a college crowd, you have the ability to not to speak like a college student, but to talk like you're talking to college students.
Right.
Which is different than talking to first graders.
Right. I have a wedding of a goat farming family and a cotton farming family.
I love goat farmers.
And those things I would never know how to talk to people about being cotton farmers.
When two accountants get married, you don't talk about goats. And when goat farmers get married, you don't talk about boring numbers and taxes.
Yeah. So one of the cool things, we're going through the church, kind of just cleaning it up and getting things reorganized and stuff moved around right now. And I found this really cool statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary of Vietnam.
So you're saying Mary?
Yeah,
it's like Mary, but she looks Vietnamese.
She's Mary, and she's holding the child Jesus, and she's presenting the child Jesus. But she's wearing I did a Vietnamese wedding a couple of years ago, and there's the clothing style is entirely different. There's like
gorgeous,
there's
very vibrant colors.
Correct.
Yeah,
and so she's wearing the blue and white that the Blessed Virgin Mary typically wears when they present an image of her. But she has these Vietnamese woman features, and so does the child Jesus.
Okay, so what's up with that? So I mean, I think somebody maybe not Catholic. Maybe even Catholics who just haven't traveled a lot or haven't had that experience. Yeah. They would walk in and they would say, this is dumb. Mary was Middle Eastern. Mary was from Israel. She's not Vietnamese. What the heck? That's obviously not Mary because she looks Vietnamese.
But it is.
So but why? Let's maybe flesh that out for people because there's others. I mean, Our Lady of Guadalupe. Our Lady of Guadalupe is Mary,
exactly.
The Mother of God, right? And she looks like a native Indian,
correct,
from the 16th century in Mexico.
And she's wearing the clothing.
And she's dressed like that. So you would say, what the heck? Mary's never been to Mexico.
Yeah.
Mary lived her life in Nazareth and Bethlehem with a side trip to Egypt,
right,
and back again. She's never been to Mexico. Why does she look like that?
So I found, you know what I found? I found Ugandan carvings of Mary in the crucifixion.
Yep.
And they looked like people from Uganda.
Yep.
It was just beautiful. They were this like dark, hard wood, and these figures were carved into it of Mary with the Christ child. I was like, this is really beautiful that someone can teach out of this. They can talk to you about the incarnate Son of the Father, Jesus Christ, in their culture, in their language, wearing their clothing. Like it's to say, oh, Jesus died on the cross over there. He was born in a cave in Bethlehem, pointing across like another continent.
Yep,
that's hard to do. When you tell people like, no, not only did God become flesh and entered humanity, but he's entered all of humanity. He's entered every man and woman.
Yeah. So when we say in the creed, I believe in one holy Catholic and apostolic church. What do we mean by Catholic? Catholic, small c, means universal. And so the gospel is for everyone. It's for everyone in every time, in every place.
Ooh, yes.
It's not an American thing. I think I've mentioned this before. There was back in the 50s, they were in the state of Georgia, they were debating a law that would make English the official language. And one of the guys, kind of a state representative, he got up, and this was his argument. If English was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me.
No, he didn't.
And sat down, right? That's so dumb. Like, dude, you are dumb. I love you, and you are a beloved son of the Father, but that's so dumb, And so that's where we get into. And lately, with a lot of the racial tension that we've been having all summer long, and Black Lives Matter, and a lot of people have kind of, I don't know if it's criticized but I think the Catholic Church, I think we're in a very good place where people say, why do you have Jesus? Jesus looks like he's white, or Mary looks like she's white. But they weren't white. They were from the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore should look like it. When you make Mary blonde hair and blue eyes,
right.
The argument is you're doing sort of this disservice. But in the Catholic Church, we have Mary all shades.
I have
the Vietnamese, we have Our Lady of Guadalupe. Mary as like a Mexican.
I have a Honduran Blessed Virgin Mary.
And there's beautiful images. You mentioned the Uganda, but there's these beautiful images. I just saw one the other day of like the African Madonna. And it's Mary, as a black woman.
Oh, wow.
And Jesus, as black.
Right.
And so I think the Catholic Church actually has a good record, if you will, on this. And that is wherever you are, Jesus and Mary become kind of who you are
in your culture.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't like get that whole.
One of the coolest things when I was on my immersion I was living in a homeless shelter in Phoenix with the Missionary Sisters of Charity. And one of the people that helped out and volunteered and worked there was a young woman from one of the native tribes, Pima Yavapai or something like that, in northern Arizona. And she took us up to where their land is, where they have their ceremonies, and she took us to the Catholic Church there. And she's like, this is what they have built. So there was this Last Supper, and it was the sun dancer as Jesus in the Last Supper, because apparently in their tribe, they have the sun dancer, the sun dancer, then they have these 12 men that stay with him and that are like his friends, his sidekicks, his homies, those people that support the sun dancer. And so it was really cool to see this beautiful piece of art that this Native American artist had said,
that's cool.
This is how I want to evangelize my tribe and my nation. I want to evangelize them through something that we already have, which is the sun dancer. And I'm going to introduce them to the Son of the Father. Not just the son that the sun dancer in our tribe would dance to, but the Son who in a way you could say, whose mission is to delight the Father. And I was like, that is awesome. Yeah. And so they were painted. They weren't like sitting around. They were sitting around sort of like the Last Supper table, but they were dressed and painted as men of that tribe.
So why not? I mean, so some people would say, like, look, just stop with all that. Like, just portray Jesus and Mary like they looked. Like, why mess with Vietnamese Mary and indigenous Mexican Mary and
or Native American Jesus,
or African kind of black Jesus? Like, why mess with all that? Don't do that.
Right.
And we would say, well, because God became one of us so that we might become like him.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see Jesus, to see the Blessed Virgin Mary portrayed looking like you, I think is powerful. I think is a powerful statement of the church that you are a beloved. We don't just portray Jesus, exactly as he historically looked, but that God became incarnate. God took on flesh, and now takes on in this art, takes on your flesh.
Right. It's just two things. Like, one, we talked about this sort of a little bit in the episode on iconoclasm, the smashing of images.
So last September, I actually just sent that out to my parish, because when we got the new statue, some people ask, like, I have my friend who's kind of anti-Catholic, who just thinks statues are like that that we worship statues. Anyway, so you can go back to, that was September 2019. We did a whole episode.
Yeah,
on that.
we talked about like the Ark of the Covenant and the angels on the Ark.
Yeah,
even though God said
we don't worship the statue points us to something deeper.
Right. So with this, I'm going to go on that trail of the incarnation of why we can have these images, because God has taken on flesh. Like if the second person of the Holy Trinity, if the Trinity doesn't exist, then we can't create images of God, because the second person of the Holy Trinity did not become flesh, so we can't create images. So if Jesus has not come into the world, the second person of the most Holy Trinity has not come into the world, then you can't make images of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, because they're pure spirit. We have the image of the Holy Spirit as a dove, because that's what the Gospels tell us at the beginning of them. The Spirit descended like a dove upon Jesus. With the making of these statues or religious images or even paintings, we have old paintings of these as well. Two things it does. One, it allows us to understand that I think God has come to save me. That he's not on some dark side of the moon. He's not on another part of another continent. He's not far, far, far away. But God has come to save me.
Yes.
And as you said just a minute ago, and he looks like me. He doesn't look like these people over there. He looks like me. And so if I'm in a small village someplace in Honduras where I lived, the Madonna was a local Honduran woman. And so those women could see Mary as...
They see themselves in Mary.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the same way in this little village, the crucifix, Jesus had brown skin, like he does in the Middle East, like he does in Nazareth where he was raised. But he also has these features of a local Honduran man.
Yeah.
So to do two things. One, to lift us to think higher.
Yep.
To lift us to think about heaven and God. That God is one of us, but he's also different than us. So
he's eternal. I'm not.
Yeah, when every guy is like 5'2" to 5'5", and you have this image that is 6 feet tall, you're like, okay, God is taller than me. So it's trying to teach you something catechetically. Yes. God is bigger than, but he also looks like me because he became incarnate. The second thing is that I love the idea that we can pray in our own language. We don't have this like we've translated the Bible into almost every known modern language, and it's
actually very cool. In Washington D.C. there's the Museum of the Bible, and in there, it is crazy cool of like just how many languages the Bible has been translated into. Thanks be to God. You were saying?
Oh, hold on a second. I lost my train of thought.
Of how we get to speak. We can pray in our own language.
Yeah. We pray in our own language. So not only did I see these images that God has become flesh in front of me, because remember, that's how we learn stuff. You know, kids going back to school, if they don't see things, they're not going to learn them. We learn by seeing, and that's why as Catholics, we've done this in those areas. And it's not just the people have done it, the priests have done it, and the bishops have encouraged them to make these, so that we can pray in our own language and look upon God, who is not just in some other continent, but has also arrived in not only in our villages, our homes.
Yep.
And is here before us.
Yep.
Woo.
Yeah. So God didn't come, Jesus didn't come just to save people who are from the Middle East. Mm-hmm. He did. But for all of us. And so I think I would encourage you to go and like look up, you can kind of Google images of Jesus and Mary from other countries. Uh-huh. And no matter where you go in the world, I mean, if you're going to visit Catholic churches around the world, you're going to go and you're going to see Jesus and Mary depicted as they probably looked, Middle Eastern. But you're also going to see, just get ready, because you're going to see Jesus and Mary depicted as the place wherever it is that you're visiting. Mm-hmm. If you're visiting, countries in Africa.
I like your little Irish baby Jesus, your little Irish little kid Jesus with the
so
ringlets.
It was hanging in our home. I mean, I remember it's like Jesus, and he is like
ringlets.
Yeah, he has like curly hair.
It looks like a little Irish boy.
And I remember, we had somebody come to our house, and like they thought it was like a deceased relative or something. Like, and it's like, no, it's Jesus. But it's Jesus kind of. I mean, in my my Irish Catholic upbringing, that helped me to relate.
Yeah.
Jesus is like me.
Because you had little curly hair when you were a little boy.
Yeah, I did.
And that bow tie, that giant blue bow tie.
I did. But then in that image, Jesus has I have it it's hanging in my room.
I know, I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you doing in my room?
Well, booby trapping everything.
What the heck? Get out.
I go in there once a week and just move things around.
All right, in our last little 90 seconds, tell us about what's coming up at St. John's. You've got
School is
starting.
About to start.
Give us your mass times.
Our mass times are, you ready?
Ready.
It's really easy to remember. Weekday, Monday through Thursday, 9:09 p.m. That's
Love
2109, 9:09 p.m. And then 7:30 a.m. on Fridays. Okay, weekends, 10, noon, 5, and 9:09 p.m.
All right.
10, noon,
you better
5.
get a nap in. You getting a nap in?
That's why they're gapped so far apart,
so that nap.
So I can take a little siesta. We just have to do this because we have 700 students. 700.
I'm not going to see you on Sundays.
I know. And we're just trying to get them all to mass. The 909 is going to be outdoors in the parking lot.
Oh.
Yep. Just like we talked. Didn't we talk about that last
week?
We did.
Oh, okay. We did. Just making sure it's still. Things change, from week to week.
Right.
And then at the parish, we got some stuff coming out, especially about our children's ministry. We're doing all of our children's ministry online at least through Christmas.
Okay.
So we're working on that.
Fantastic.
And then we're rocking along. We got Mass and confessions, and you can go to our website, sfxstillwater.org. What's your website?
CatholicPokes.com.
Ah, I see.
And you can listen to all of these. You people out there, even on other planets, can listen to this on pastorsofpain.com, the website. It's got all the
the episodes, 110 or something.
So many.
Something like that.
So many. I can't believe we've been doing this long.
And we're just going to keep on doing it. But if you got a topic that you'd like, some people have suggested various topics, and we usually, unless they're dumb, then we do it. So if you got something, send it our way. If you see us in person. But anyway, we hope you have a great week. We're looking forward to school getting going.
Pray for us.
We're praying for all you teachers and students out there, and it's gonna be a year.
It's gonna be fantastic.
God is with us, though. God is with us. We'll see ya.
Peace.